You know, we all learn about the classic five senses, right? Sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste. But what if I told you that's just the tip of the iceberg? What if there's a whole hidden world of senses operating inside you, making critical decisions every single second, completely without your conscious knowledge? Well, today, we're diving deep into that secret world, the mind hidden in your gut. It really all kicks off with one of those questions you see online that sounds, completely ridiculous. Can you actually taste with your stomach? And of course, it's usually followed by the even more, let's say, provocative version of the question. Can you taste with your anus? It's a weird thought, for sure, but it actually points to something genuinely fascinating about our biology. Now look, the simple, straightforward answer is no. You cannot consciously enjoy the flavor of a pizza with your intestines. But the scientific answer? Oh, it's so much cooler. Because in a very real biological sense, your gut absolutely is tasting and smelling everything that you eat. So what's the deal here? Well, it all comes down to perception. The key difference isn't the sensors themselves. They're often identical. The difference is where those sensors send their signals. One path goes to your conscious brain, and the other? It goes to your body's automatic subconscious control center. Okay, so check this out. On the left, we've got the familiar setup. Receptors in your mouth and nose are wired directly to the parts of your brain that create conscious experiences, things like flavor, smell, pleasure, or disgust. But then you look at the right side, at the gut. It has the exact same types of receptors, but they're wired to what scientists sometimes call the gut brain, a separate nervous system. And their job isn't about pleasure. It's all about regulation, digestion, and defense. So let's actually meet these incredible sensors that are doing all this work behind the scenes. You can think of them as the nutrient watchdogs of your entire digestive system, constantly on guard, monitoring every little thing that passes through. The heroes of our story are called enteroendocrine cells. Yeah, I know, it's a mouthful. But all it really means is that these are highly specialized cells in your gut lining that have the very same chemical detecting proteins as the taste buds on your tongue. They are literally your body's internal taste testers. So think about this. When a sweet receptor in your intestine detects sugar, it doesn't send a yum signal to your brain. Nope. Instead, it sends a message to your pancreas to release insulin to handle that sugar. It also triggers hormones that tell your brain, hey, we're full down here. And what about the bitter receptors? They're your first line of defense. If they taste something that could be a toxin, they can slam the brakes on digestion to stop you from absorbing it, or in extreme cases, they're the ones that hit the big red emergency eject button. Okay, so if tasting with your gut wasn't weird enough for you, get ready for this one. Your gut can also smell. And no, we're not talking about smelling the dinner you just ate. We're talking about something way, way more personal. That's right, deep inside your gut lining, you have actual olfactory or smell receptors. But what on earth could they be smelling? Well, they're listening in on the chemical chatter of your gut bacteria. It's incredible. When they detect certain chemicals that your microbiome is producing, they release serotonin. Yeah, the famous happy chemical, which in this case is used to control how fast or slow everything moves through your system. And get this, bonus fact, similar receptors in your kidneys are smelling these same signals in your bloodstream to help regulate your blood pressure. It's all connected. Now, all this brings us back around to that other part of the internet's favorite question, the infamous ring of fire. Why is it that spicy food seems to burn on both ends of its journey? The whole secret here is a receptor called TRPV1, and this is the key. It is not a taste receptor. It's a pain and heat receptor. Its job is to detect actual physical burning. The chemical in chili peppers, capsaicin, is just a master of disguise. It happens to fit perfectly into this receptor like a key into a lock, and it tricks your nervous system into thinking your mouth's, and, later on, your anus, is literally on fire. You aren't tasting the spice. You are feeling a phantom burn. Okay, now let's put all these pieces together and talk about something we've all unfortunately experienced. That sudden, unmistakable, gut-wrenching feeling that you need a bathroom, like right now. This isn't just a normal urge. This is a full-blown, code-red, biological alarm system going off. That feeling is actually a highly coordinated, four-stage panic sequence, and it's triggered by all those amazing sensors we just talked about. It starts with a subtle little uh-oh signal. Then it escalates to a physical gurgle and cramp, adds a layer of chemical heat, and finally culminates in a full-body shock. It all begins with what we're calling the uh-oh signal. This is actually a rectoanal inhibitory reflex. And what's happening is your body relaxes an internal muscle just enough to let a tiny, tiny sample of, well, the contents, touch the super sensitive lining of your upper anal canal. This lining is packed with nerves that can tell the difference between solid, gas, or liquid almost instantly. And when it detects liquid, it smashes the big red alert button. Next up, the gurgle and the cramp. So at the exact same moment the alarm is being sounded at the exit, those smell receptors we talked about further up the gut have detected a threat, like a toxin or bad bacteria. Their response is to flood your entire system with a massive dose of serotonin. This causes your intestinal muscles to go into these violent, spastic contractions. That's the cramping you feel. It's your body literally trying to flush the threat out as fast as humanly possible. Then you feel the heat. Because everything is moving way too fast, your body doesn't have time to reabsorb harsh digestive fluids like bile acids. So these acids travel all the way down to your colon, where they hit those same TRPV1 heat sensors, the ones we talked about with spicy food. So even if you didn't eat anything spicy at all, you feel a burn because your body's own digestive juices are setting off the fire alarm. And finally, the cold sweat, the dizziness, that feeling that you might actually pass out. This is a vasovagal reflex. The intense stretching of the rectum sends a shock wave up the massive vagus nerve, which goes straight to your brain. This can cause your heart rate and your blood pressure to suddenly plummet, and that's what causes that awful, clammy, lightheaded feeling. It's a genuine shock to your system. So let's just recap the absolute chaos. What you're feeling is a perfectly coordinated, multi-system panic attack. You've got chemical sensors screaming toxin, poison, your muscles are going into violent spasms, your exit sensors are yelling containment breach is imminent, and your main nerve line to the brain is literally dropping your blood pressure. It is brutal, but man, is it an effective survival mechanism. So this begs the question, right? Why does our body have this bizarre, seemingly redundant system of sensors scattered all over the place? Well, the answer, as it so often does, comes down to evolution being incredibly efficient. The logic is actually beautifully simple. Evolution is lazy in the best possible way. It doesn't like to invent new things from scratch if it doesn't have to. Once it figures out a really good tool, like a protein that's great at detecting a certain chemical, it just copies and pastes that biological hardware wherever it might come in handy. A sweet detector is useful on the tongue to find high-energy food, right? Well, it's also useful in the gut for managing that energy once it arrives. Same tool, different job. And all of this leaves us with a pretty wild final thought. We've just figured out that your digestive system is basically tasting, smelling, and making high-stakes decisions entirely on its own. It's a whole subconscious world running in parallel to the one you experience. So the real question is, if your gut has a mind of its own, what else is your body doing right now without ever asking for your permission?